Kate Mulafalcha, welcome to Irish Granny Helen. And thank you to all my subscribers, my members. Welcome if you're a new subscriber. Think about joining as a member because I do have more content behind the 99-cent paywall. And I really appreciate the support. The paywall is just to keep away the trolls. Anyway, I am very grateful and I hope you enjoy this. Today, I kind of want to talk about something that is an extension of what I talked about previously. In periods of difficult times, when there is chaos in the world, when there is instability and unpredictability, periods of time where there are diseases or there are famines or wars, all the terrible things that can befall humankind. People in their predictable psychology will often turn to prophets and seers. The human psyche really doesn't like the unknown, doesn't really feel comfortable sitting with uncertainty. And we don't like change. It's sort of part of our DNA. And so very frequently when there is something odd happening in the world for any period of time, prolonged period of time, you will find that people start consulting psychics and card readers and astrologers and religious figures, anybody who might, they hope, provide reassurance or a sense of the definite. And with that in mind, there's been a lot of chatter in the environment about prophets of the past. What did they say was going to happen right now? And the one that probably is the most recognizable is Nostradamus. And I have done extensive videos on Nostradamus from the books that Dolores Cannon wrote about him. I believe there were 4 of them, at least 4 of them. So you can go back into my Dolores Cannon playlist and you can find that. And if you really just want to know about today, you can hit on the description and it leads you to a transcript, and you can just scroll through the transcript till you get to the content that you're interested in hearing about. I recommend you listen to the whole thing. So the other seer, predictor, psychic that people are talking about lately is Baba Vanga. And she's the Nostradamus of the Balkans, I think is what they called her. And I made a video about her and did a little deeper dive behind the paywall. You're welcome to look into all of that. And, there are people like Edgar Casey and Jean Dixon. And throughout time, there have been ancient and modern seers. Cassandra comes to mind. And I love the story of Cassandra. I'm not terribly into mythology. It's too fantasy adjacent for me. I'm a realist. But I do like the story of Cassandra. Cassandra irritated. See, how does this go? She got the gift of sight from Juno, and Juno got mad and said, well, I'm sorry. She got the gift of sight from Juno, and Jupiter, the head guy, he got mad and he said, okay, I can't take away this gift. Maybe it was the opposite. Well, she got a gift of sight from one god or the other, and the opposite god took offense. There was a little bit of a jealousy thing going on, and wanting to give back at the god who gave the gift giver. But there was a rule. Once that God gave you a gift, no other God could take it away. But they could alter the circumstance. So Cassandra got the gift of sight, prophecy. But as a punishment, she was also given the not so great gift, the booby prize of nobody believing her. So she could prophesy and she would be correct and nobody would believe her. So I can relate to that sometimes. I sometimes do feel a little bit like a Cassandra because I'll feel something in my bones and I'll say, I just know this is what's coming. And it's never anything good. I mean, who needs to predict good things? We like to hope good things are coming, but that's not what we need to be warned about. You don't need to be warned that great stuff is coming. It's the threats that we need to be warned about. And that's what I pick up on. And so I'll say, I just have a feeling about this event or this character or this law or just, circumstance. And people around me, my family, for example, and people watching will say, oh, this is such a bummer. This is so depressing. This is so exaggerated. It couldn't possibly be true. And I feel like Cassandra. It's hard, And then it'll happen. And I swear, no matter how awful it is, sometimes I actually feel validated and I feel like, I don't know, you guys, I told you so. So putting that aside, this personal problems, putting that aside, there are many seers throughout history, real and imaginary. And it's not magic. We live in an environment of all possibilities, past, present, and future. We are an electromagnetic spiritual being. That information is electromagnetic information in the field. Some people are better at connecting to it than others. That's all. There's nothing mysterious about it. How do you get better at it? You work at it. That's all. Some people are born with a propensity for it, just the way everybody can play something on the piano. Some people are a little better at it than others. That's just the way it is. But it's not spooky. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. It's not a big mystery. It's not spooky. It's not special. You're not a better person because you have a beautiful singing voice. You're not a better person because you're a really good painter or cook or seamstress or gardener. Each of us has some strength and some weakness. And when people have a strength where they see things, they tune in to what's in the environment, and they're able to communicate what they're feeling or seeing, it can freak people out. You can understand that. So Nostradamus had to hide it because of the Inquisition. He would have been in big trouble with the church powers if they knew what he had been doing. He was prophesying and he was healing, and he was using energy healing, and that wasn't a thing in the Middle Ages, at least not in Western culture. Baba Vanga really was under the scrutiny of the government of her time because, you're kind of unpredictable and uncontrollable when you have that kind of worldview, the ability to prophesy, because you can stir people up. Let me remind you of Jesus. He did the same thing. He would talk about things that the Roman government, the emperor, the imperial government feared would rile up the public. That was really what that whole story was about. Baba Vanga, they were worried. So they actually took advantage of her and had her work for the government, and then took her money, and they were able to keep more control over her. But she was very popular, so they had a hard time keeping the lid on her. Well, now we have another person, and that's what I want to talk about today. And this other person is called Japan's Baba Vanga. This is how I found out about her. I thought it was interesting. It's not very long. We'll be through with this very quickly. Maybe we'll read some cards. But I just think it's fascinating that, the facts of her story. So this is Japan's Baba Vanga, Ryo Tatsuki, and I hope I said that right, Ryo Tatsuki. Now you can look her up on the internet, and there's 6 gazillion articles about her. They all pretty much say the same thing. A lot of stuff in Japanese, which is kind of fun. I didn't read that, but it's pretty to look at. And so I'll tell you what I could find out. She's retired now. She was a manga artist, which is like that Japanese cartoon stuff. And in 1975, she started having precognitive dreams. And she made eerie, accurate predictions. She kept a dream diary. She kept it from about 1980 until 1999. And she compiled all of it into a book, a manga book, a cartoon book called The Future That I Saw. It was published. And she's been fairly unknown despite predicting all sorts of things. She predicted the terribly devastating 1995 Kobe earthquake in Japan. She predicted the 1991 death of Freddie Mercury. Those 2 things that she predicted are sort of dismissed because the book was published after the events happened. But she had written the diary before the events happened. So people wanted to dismiss it because of the dates. But then, from the period of time that she did publish it, new stuff happened that was in her book. So in March of 2011, she said there would be a big earthquake. And indeed there was. There was the big earthquake, the Tohoku earthquake, and probably better known as the Fukushima disaster, where the earthquake triggered a tsunami and it, took down the Fukushima nuclear reactors. Some gnarly video on YouTube of people trapped in their cars, trapped in buildings, trying to run away. It's far scarier than any disaster film I've ever seen. And some people reacted really strongly against her prediction. They said that, oh, well, obviously. Now, this is, by the way, this is a conspiracy theory. This is not fact. This is what people said about her in a negative reaction to her predictions, that she must belong to a secret organization that triggered the quake to control the Japanese population. Now, obviously, this is nuts, and nobody did that. And it's in the context of a book that predicts a lot of stuff. So it's okay to be skeptical, but don't lose it, So here are some of her past predictions. And this is how she operated. She would have a dream on a specific date. And the event she dreamed of would happen 5 years, 10 years, 15 years after that date on the same date. So if she said if she had a dream on January 1st, that event could happen on January 1st of the year, like when she woke up that day, or January 1st, 5 years later, or January 1st, 10 years later, in 5-year increments. And then usually she'd have a date after which it wouldn't happen. So she had 2 dreams about Freddie Mercury. And in those dreams, both of the dreams happened on November 24th. On November 24th of 1976, she had the dream. And on November 24th of 1981, she had the dream. And in the dream, she specifically saw that Freddie Mercury would die November 24th, 1991. And he did. She also saw that there would be a big movie made about him in his honor. And there was Bohemian Rhapsody that came out in 2018. She dreamt on January 2nd of 1995, she dreamt that there would be a big earthquake, and she named the area, but to us, it's known as the Kobe earthquake. And when she woke up, she wrote down, there's going to be this big earthquake, and it's going to be either 15 days from today, so this is what she wrote January 2nd, 1995. This quake is going to happen in 15 days, or it's going to happen on the same date, January 2nd, but in 15 years. And she didn't know which it was. It happened 15 days later, exactly, January 17th, 1995. She dreamt about the death of Princess Diana. She woke up and said in her diary that I had this really blurry dream, and this was August 31st, 1992. And she wrote specifically in the diary, Diana dies? Just not the clearest of dreams. And Diana died August 31st, 5 years later, 1997. Then she had a dream, January 2nd, 1995, that she called My Own Funeral Dream. And she retired after having this dream. And she retired January 2nd, year 2000. And in retrospect, she realized she wasn't dreaming about her own death. She was dreaming about the end of her professional career. March 11th of 96, she dreamed of a huge catastrophe in eastern Japan. And there was the big Fukushima thing, March of 2011. In 1995, she had a dream and she wrote down, and this is a quote, in 25 years, so after 95, in 25 years, an unknown virus will come in 2020. And it will disappear after peaking in April and reappear again 10 years later. So, except for the fact that it peaked 3 times, she was absolutely right about the dates up until we don't know what's going to happen in 2030. But she apologized publicly for not predicting the fact that there would be these 3 waves of peaks. She only thought that there would be 1, but there were 2 more. Now she has future predictions, so we don't know. We'll only be able to tell in retrospect. So she had a dream August 20th of 1991, and she said, okay, there is going to be an eruption of Mount Fuji. It's going to be absolutely devastating. And so this is going to trigger all kinds of tectonic activity, but it's going to spew into the atmosphere. It's going to be really bad. And this is a less specific time period for it happening. So dream happened August 20th, 1991. She said the earliest date this eruption could happen would be August 20th, 2021. So 10 years in the future. Or every 15 years after that on August 20th until 2141. So pay attention on August 20th. Let's see. 2021. Every 15 years. Is that 15 years? I don't know. I have to do the math if it's 15 years after 1991 or 15 years after 2021. In either case, it won't be this year. For Fuji has been dormant for over 300 years. But for the last 10 years, geologists have been very nervous because they said they've seen a lot of signs that are increasing that it will erupt soon. And soon in geotectonics is, it's kind of a vague term. Then she had a dream that was going to happen, she said, between June and September. No, she had the dream between June and September of 91. She forgot to write the date down, but it was in 1991. And so she didn't know exactly the date that this would happen. But between June of 2026 and September of 2026, she says there's going to possibly be a big earthquake in Kanagawa province with a gigantic tsunami, just a massive tsunami, a mega tsunami, in places that have never had a tsunami. And she said the potential of this happening is until 2131, between June and September. So, this triggers a lot of controversy. People are either all in for prophecies and predictions, or they're very skeptical. Some people ask, what's going on here? Some say this is just coincidence. I don't know. Those dates can be very specific. I found that astounding. But some people think it's coincidence. Others say, or they at least ask, is she connecting with the ether? The Greeks, the ancients, used to believe we were surrounded by an energy, like a spiritual energy that connected us to each other and to the larger universe, the cosmos, to the gods, and to time, past, present, and future. And actually, they're beginning to believe that that's probably true, and that they were right about that. Jung called it the collective unconscious, that there's some sort of shared psychological space that we live in the soup of events, of energies. And some people are just better at connecting. Like I said, it's just a skill to connect into it. My friend Stefan Schwartz says, I always get his first name wrong. It's Stefan Schwartz says that it's about just tuning in. It's about tuning in to the information in the field. So coming from a more scientific point of view, nothing woo-woo metaphysical about it. Of course, time and space have no meaning, and that's true in a lot of disciplines. And he says it's just a matter of learning how to focus, and he does meditation for that. But he's the expert on remote viewing, and that's how they use it. They just tune in. So the book now is very hard to find. Tatsuki, I want to say her name correctly, Ryo Tatsuki. Her manga book about this is very hard to find, and if you can find it, it's like $1,000 or more. She's retired because, she predicted she would, and she doesn't have precognitive dreams anymore, at least not what she's talking about. And this made me think, God forbid, this made me think, she stopped having the dreams when she stopped doing the art. And I just wonder, did the art, the creative process, help her to tap into the ether, to the information in the field? So let's read it. Let's do a Celtic cross on her dreams, her predictions. Like, where did they come from? Why her and not us, Let's look at this. Okay. Oh, this is a very difficult thing for her. These dreams were... this is so interesting. So culturally, I don't know what the prevailing attitude culturally is in Japan towards paranormal, psychic stuff. Now, I know that they have lots of stories of ghosts and haunted forests and such. And their relationship to the dead is completely different than ours. They honor ancestors. I don't know enough about it to talk about it. I just know it's different. But I get the impression that she was challenging something cultural here, or something, maybe it was just something practical in society. So the Six of Wands reversed, and it's crossed by strength. And I think what we're seeing here is this juxtaposition of somebody who is presenting. Often, it's funny, I've done some other readings about other psychics, and often get wands for the act of them putting forward their information. because it takes an act of will and courage, that's hence the Strength card, to actually speak about these things. It's not always well received, and she has been facing skepticism, and nevertheless had the courage and the fortitude to go forward and talk about it anyway. But Six of Wands reversed is like the defeated. I don't think she let it defeat her, but I think they wanted to shut her up. Too many people didn't believe her. But those dates are awfully, awfully, awfully specific. And in the atmosphere, get the Four of Pentacles reversed. There's something being protected here. There's something being a reluctance to allow this to go out into the world. These are facts about things that are going to happen in the material world that certain people would prefer were not made public fodder. And I think what we're seeing is at the foundation, the Five of Cups, I think we're seeing a reluctance to share this information, to put it out there, for fear or a desire to not get people riled up. One of the big arguments against prophecy or letting people know unusual things, I'll use the example of disclosure of ET interaction. One of the big arguments against that is people can't handle it. And I think that they have a lot of reluctance to put information out there. They think people are going to panic. But at the foundation of her strength, so this card can go either way, is her desire to help people so that they don't suffer some terrible repercussions. And this is what she's talking about. She's talking about difficult things, losses, catastrophes. Like I said earlier, you don't need to have predictions of today's your lucky day, as much as you need predictions of be careful today, things that are protective, warnings that you can prepare for. Of course, if we're talking about the lotto numbers, that's a whole different kettle of fish. She looked at the future and she thought, look, there's something coming up that's going to create trouble. And if we want to continue to function smoothly as a population, if we don't want to have ourselves hampered, this is the Six of Swords moving into calmer water. She is trying to warn people. This is coming up. This event is coming up that's going to hamper us in our smooth sailing, hamper us in our normal course of events. And I have to speak out about this if we want to prevent people from suffering the repercussions of ignoring it. And interestingly enough, you get the Five of Swords in the environment of the Eight of Wands, but it was reversed. She's looking at situations. She's seeing the truth clearly, and she's speaking out in hopes of preventing the damage. People do pay attention. These are things that are happening in the world, real world, and globally, and significant to many people. There's value in it, value in the information, and fear and reluctance by some perceived. She is the Queen of Wands, who is practical but intuitive, willing to act on her knowledge, but not aggressively dominant the way, like the King of Wands is. The Queen of Wands is about, I know this. See the sunflower? I can shed light on this. take it or leave it, act on it or not. You see, she's kind of got a relaxed pose. It's like, okay, I'm going to put this out here, do with it as you may, but trying to protect the actual literal infrastructure, the actual literal institutions, you know, the buildings, the roads, the people, the economy, the institutions that make a country run smoothly. Why would you invite scorn and skepticism? Why wouldn't you want to just lie low? Well, you want to do it for the benefit of people so that things can sail along smoothly. You need to speak out when you know something. And she had the courage, that strength card, to do that. Let's ask a question about Fuji, Mount Fuji. What were the dates? I think we've got like 100 years of potential threat from Mount Fuji. And after 2141, if it hasn't erupted, it's not going to erupt. Will it erupt? Let's see. And that's bad because it will affect the globe, because let me remind you of Krakatoa. When that happened, there was nuclear night. There was winter for several years because the sky, the atmosphere filled with ash and smoke and debris. Sunshine couldn't get through. Crops failed. People's health failed. Animals died. It was a devastating event for the entire world. So this would not be some small thing that's just isolated to Japan. This would be a significant global event. Okay, so she's the high priestess. She's somebody that has inner knowledge, inner wisdom. She's trying to warn about some bad thing coming. That's the second time we've got the devil here in this reading. She's trying to warn people so that they can take caution. And very much being received by many as the Knight of Cups. We don't entirely trust what you're serving up. And she's recommending taking action, but I got this reversed. People are reluctant to act on what she has to say. There's too many skeptics. And she's speaking the truth. And her truth is coming from inner knowledge, from wisdom, inner wisdom. She's trying to free people from the repercussions of ignoring the truth. Telling them, retreat. Not, everybody evacuate or escape, but she's warning them to be prepared to react if this happens. Be prepared. What are we going to do as a society? What are you going to do as an individual? If you live at the foot of Mount Fuji, do you want to reconsider? It might be time to withdraw from there for a while. So I think it's likely to happen. It seems like I get that feeling that, yes, it's likely to happen. She's put out the warning. Now it's up to us. It's up to the Japanese to decide to take her seriously or to continue to be skeptical. And it will be to their own sorrow if they ignore her and dismiss her. I feel that really strongly. But, there's a good over 100-year span of time that she predicts this might happen. We're a terribly foolhardy, short-sighted species. It's, if it's not going to happen today in my house, I'm not going to worry about it. Be warned. So says Cassandra. Well, thank you for watching. This was just kind of fun to do, and I think very interesting. So pay attention, and Slongafoil. Sluncha.